Okay, we do have quorum now, so I will call this general committee meeting to order. And before I begin with the regular part of our agenda, I'd just like to ask for a brief moment of silence. We had a great member of our community and a great volunteer, Kim Kerr, passed away last week. So again, a brief moment of silence to recognize her contributions to our community. Thank you very much. So, may I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Moved by Mayor Daw, seconded by Councillor Gartner. Any comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Next, we'll move to declarations of pecuniary interest. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move on to presentations. We have two presentations this evening. The first presentation is Kyle Monroe, the 3rd Beaver Colony Scouter, regarding the 3rd Aurora Scouting Group's 60th anniversary on February 13th, 2018. So, Mr. Monroe, please come to the podium, give us your name and address just for the record, and I'll remind you that you have 10 minutes for your presentation.
Won't take that long. Thank you very much, Kyle Monroe, 3rd Aurora Scouting Group. Thank you very much. Thank you. Hello, Mr. Mayor, members of council, town staff, honored friends in scouting, and sporting family members. My name is Kyle Monroe, and I'm a Beaver Colony Scouter, and a long time ago I was a former youth with the 3rd Aurora Scouting Group. I'd like to take this moment to thank you for allowing us the opportunity to come before you today as 3rd Aurora prepares to celebrate our 60th anniversary next week. The Scouting movement has a long history in Aurora, providing quality, volunteer-driven opportunities for enriching the lives of local youth by giving them a positive and constructive outlet for building self-confidence, learning life skills, the importance of teamwork, and contributing to the community and the world around them. In a time where Scouting in Canada faces many challenges in remaining relevant as an activity in the lives of youth, the opportunity to be here today to recognize the longevity of this group is one that should be truly celebrated. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the many volunteers, both leaders and parents alike, several of whom are with us here tonight, who have given countlessly of their time, experience, and other resources over the past 60 years to keep 3rd Aurora and the other local scouting groups in our area active. It is their dedication that has left the most lasting and positive impressions on the many local youth who have taken part over the years. It is their commitment that has created the opportunity for newer scouters such as myself and others here tonight to have a group where we are able to take part with our children, like my son Henry here, and their friends going forward. It is their efforts that have reinforced the importance of the various sections' specific mottos to which Scouts Canada aspires. Sharing, 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 if you're Beavers. Do your best when you're in Cubs. Be prepared in Scouts. Challenge in Venturers, and going beyond in Rovers. I would like to acknowledge our sponsor also, the Aurora United Church, who has graciously supported 3rd Aurora Group from the beginning and who, despite many notable challenges in recent years, will be celebrating their own 200th anniversary in 2018. In recognition of this memorable occasion, 3rd Aurora, in partnership with other local groups represented here tonight, including the currently active 2nd Aurora, 5th Aurora, and 1st Northridge Scouting Groups, would like to present the town, through you, Mr. Mayor, with a collection of historic Aurora scouting items intended to present a glimpse into the various scouting groups that have or continue to operate in the town. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll call the mayor to the center.
So shake your hand. Turn around. Okay. Keep walking. He's been practicing all day.
Me too. I actually went home and looked for my old scout shirt, but I couldn't find it. I think my wife might have hidden it. Yeah, good. Good. Yeah. This may surprise some people, but I too once was a youth. As a matter of fact, I think I started in Cubs when 3rd Scout Aurora, when Third Aurora Troop started, so. Which would make me somewhat older. Look up. Look at the camera. You never leave until you get dismissed. Thank you. Thank you very much. You want me to read the proclamation now? And it's my pleasure to, we did a proclamation in recognition of the 3rd Aurora Scouting Day, which is next week, February 13th, 2018. I'd just like to read this. Whereas this day will celebrate the 60th anniversary of the 3rd Scouting Group, and whereas Scouts Canada is Canada's leading not-for-profit youth organization offering challenging programs for youth across Canada, and whereas programming and activities are provided by a network of caring, dedicated volunteers, and whereas volunteer-driven opportunities enrich the lives of our local youth by giving them a positive and constructive outlet for building self-confidence, learning life skills, contributing to the community and the world around them. Therefore, be it resolved that the Corporation of the Town of Aurora hereby proclaims February the 13th, 2018 is 3rd Aurora Scouting Day to celebrate their 60th anniversary. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Daw, and thank you, Mr. Monroe. Now, I'll call for a motion to receive the presentation. Moved by Councillor Kim, seconded by Councillor Humphreys. Are there any comments and/or questions for Mr. Monroe on this presentation? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of receipt? All those opposed? That carries. Thank you very much for coming, and congratulations on the anniversary. So we'll move now to the second presentation, which is Anthony Aurelio, who's our Manager of Policy Planning and Economic Development, and it's regarding the Business Concierge Service. And Anthony, you have 10 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of Council. I'm here tonight to share a video with Council that we recently produced to promote our Business Concierge service. Council may recall that the expanded Business Concierge program was created as part of the review of the economic development programs in the town that led to the development of the Economic Development Board, as well as an expansion of economic development services at the town. The video provides a summary of the program as well as testimonials from investors that have recently been involved in the program, and it will be used as a promotional tool and distributed by the Chamber of Commerce to build awareness amongst its members. So with that, I'll just take a minute to queue up the video, and Council can have a look. The whole idea of streamlining approvals for non-residential investors has always been something that we've heard from the business community when we're asking them for feedback on what we can do to make things better. So what the program itself does is, one, it provides a personalized contact for every non-residential investor. So that person is your contact at Town Hall, who's there to help you navigate through processes, problem solve potential issues, and really meet your business needs.
We worked on the development of an industrial building that was being built just off the Highway 404. We had to deal with some pretty significant engineering matters on the site. They helped us navigate through the issues that came to light, expedite their objectives. We're cognizant of the economic benefits that were going to come forward from not only this project from a client's perspective, but also on the municipality's behalf as a whole to bring jobs into the community. We were able to complete our site plan application with Aurora in under a year, and we're able to get issuance of building permits for the clients to break ground, which was exactly what they wanted.
We had a very limited launch of the concierge program a few years back. It was really meant to assist really high-level, large investments. An example of that is Bulk Barn Foods, and that resulted in a very large head office coming to town, a significant employer, and a great corporate citizen. So, huge success story for us at the front end. Based on those successes, we've now taken this and rolled it out so that it affects all of our non-residential investors
Jason, tell us a bit about the process of moving to Aurora.
Absolutely, Mayor Daw. We decided that we wanted to find a new location. The team that Mayor Daw has in place did everything possible to meet our needs. They were efficient, they were prompt with their responses, and they allowed us to move in here in a timely manner, and that's really important for us.
One of the innovative things that differentiates our program from most is we've now taken all of the non-residential planning approvals, whether it be site plan, zoning, plans of subdivision, even official plan amendments. We've taken those and placed them in economic development. There's economic development staff now being stewards of the process, but also being more active in ensuring that projects move forward successfully.
I just came in, met with someone randomly, brought in my folded tower of floor plans. What happened out of that was a call from the planning department just saying, we have an interest in what you're trying to do here and would really love to help you navigate through the process that it takes to open a business like this in a town like this one. And essentially gave me cell phones and emails and said, contact us when you have a question. The team at Aurora's planning department in the concierge program have been still as eager to help as they were on that first day I came in.
The other side of the program is more of an advocacy piece, so we don't simply stop at planning approvals. If there's a building permit application or if someone requires lesser approvals around minor variances or site plan exceptions, we also provide an advocacy support person to assist with working within Town Hall to ensure we're getting clear, concise, accurate information back to the investor.
Very often the development process is slow, convoluted, delayed, and the benefit of the Business Concierge program was Aurora was extremely helpful in expediting comments from agencies and basically advocating on our behalf to help the development get through the approval process much quicker than it often does.
Based on the response we received from business and from the real estate community, we definitely see it as a bit of a differentiator for us. We have a Town of Aurora owned business park, and we've been very successful at attracting new investment in there. We had 35 acres and we've sold every lot.
We came in for a pre-consultation meeting with the Town of Aurora. Right from the very beginning, we laid the schedule out for them of what we need to achieve. The planning department, and they worked with us the whole way of getting our pre-servicing permits, our pre-grading permits. The difference is the town was very responsive. They assured us right from the beginning that we'll be able to meet these deadlines for our tenants.
We also have lands to the north, which we call the Emery Business Park. It's 200 acres worth of land that's being brought into the market now and being serviced as we speak. These types of projects generally generate significant investment and significant employment and contribute to the community and ultimately create a balanced community that's a great place to live, but also a great place to work as well.
Anthony, is that fantastic video? Is that it, or do you have any more for your presentation?
No, that's about it, Mr. Mayor, or Mr. Chair.
Great presentation, great video. I'll look for a motion to receive the presentation. Moved by Councillor Humphreys, seconded by the Mayor. Any comments or questions for Anthony? Councillor Humphreys?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much, Anthony. That was an excellent video. And will that be sort of put on our web and also sort of used as a testimonial for encouraging other businesses and so on? Because I think it's a great tool for sure.
Through you, Mr. Chair, absolutely. That was the intent of the video. So we're in the process of reviewing our current economic development website and creating more of a focus on highlighting our business concierge program as a hallmark program in the corporation. And with that, the video will become more prominent in its entirety and also in bits and pieces in terms of taking content within the video and creating separate pieces within the website that could promote the program and promote the town as well.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Theo. What I'd like to see is some of those businesses come to fruition, like the Twisted. Just wondering how that's doing.
They're still moving towards.
Still moving forward. Good.
Yes, they're still moving towards locations.
Perfect. Yonge Street.
It's always finding the perfect location for businesses like that. That's really important. So we've been working with them for a while.
For sure. Thank you very much. It's great.
Sure.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Anthony, for the wonderful presentation. Just wanted to ask, do we have one, I know I speak to this because I recently reached out to you regarding a package. Yes. Do we have a cater package to certain industries or segments of industry, like whether it be technology, prospects, or mining, or hospitality? Do we have specifically customized portfolio or package for each of those different segments, or is it just or is it one package for all?
So through you, Mr. Chair, we don't have a general package that we distribute to investors. We try to customize our response to opportunities to specifically respond to the sectors and the businesses that we're engaging with. We find that it's a much better approach to try to speak to their specific sector and the trends within their sector. So when we're responding, we're typically trying to do research to provide the information that we think might be helpful for that particular investor in that particular sector at this time. So we don't have a canned version of a promotional package that we simply ship out. We try to have our economic development officer review the opportunity and prepare materials that would be relevant for the investor in question.
Okay. And lastly, I'm sure you've connected with your colleagues in other municipalities. How does our presentation or our package compare, like in terms of differences or similarities with their packages?
In terms of investor packages?
Yes.
There would certainly be differences in that when you're looking at land opportunities, they're going to differ for every municipality. Tax structure would be slightly different. The business fundamentals along the 404 corridor are fairly consistent among municipalities in terms of value proposition, but there are some differences between the municipalities, but I wouldn't say from an on-the-ground sort of business fundamentals, they vary greatly. A lot of it has to do with land availability, and quite honestly, the municipality's ability to bring forward projects in a timely manner and respond to business needs. We're also trying to be proactive in catering to relationships with both provincial and federal agencies in order to access grants and potential opportunities for funding expansion opportunities that could be available at different levels of government. So we offer that as a service as well. So every package would be different, but there are similarities as well in that, you know, the business environments, if you were to compare Newmarket, Richmond Hill, or Aurora, fundamentally is not that different.
Okay. And sorry, one more question. Now that we've pretty well sold out town-owned lands, how does our concierge program and our economic development team connect investors with potential facilities or real estate, given that we don't have any? Do you connect potential sellers of land, or how would that work?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there's a couple of different avenues that we can connect with potential opportunities. The most obvious is the way we've set this program up. As investors come into Town Hall, the staff that are assigned to manage these types of applications are economic development staff, so they will, as they run through the process, land in the hands of economic development, and that's just part of the system that we've set up. But in terms of being proactive in identifying opportunities, as part of our expanded economic development program, we've also begun to become much more active in launching a business visitation program, which is in its simplest form, scheduling and going out and meeting with business to get a sense on where their opportunities lie, where the barriers might be. And we've been seeing a tremendous amount of intelligence come back through those meetings in terms of where the opportunities are in terms of working with existing businesses on expansion or identifying opportunities within their network on potential investors that want to enter the market. So we've been generating some significant leads out of those discussions as well. Sometimes businesses that are outgrowing their space and have seen tremendous success and are looking for larger spaces, rather than sort of seeing that trickle in, we're now having the conversations in the front line and hearing about it 3, 4, 5, 6 months earlier than we would have normally heard, which is feeding into these types of discussions and entering into these programs. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Councillor Kim had asked if there were any specific areas that you were concentrating on. And I recall in the Economic Advisory Committee, Economic and Development Advisory, we had an action plan, and we specified and worked very hard for years on the medical campus. So I thought that might be an answer to Councillor Kim, if there were specific ITs or industries that we as a town were concentrating on, and that's where the concierge program came out of, was that advisory committee. So I just thought I would add that to Councillor Kim's and your response that you had given.
Sure.
And how is the medical campus going?
So in terms of the medical campus, we have a role in promoting that and providing opportunities for that, but ultimately it comes down to landowners making a relationship with people in that sector to encourage investment. So we've been working with Emery. The Emery Business Park is the next opportunity for that to exist, and we identified that for the Economic Development Advisory Committee as well. So that is part of Emery's promotional approach. But in terms of its general approach, I mean, they're open for business and willing to engage with investors in a variety of sectors. Emery is still in the process of servicing, so we haven't actually seen a lot of activity. We expect that activity to ramp up closer to the end of this year, and we're starting to hear that they're getting closer to moving forward on some of these potential opportunities, but we don't have a concrete update in terms of how many of those opportunities are in the medical sector, nor could we compel them to do that versus anything else. It's simply we simply encourage and advocate and provide information, which we have been doing, and I know that they include that as part of their approach and their pitch as well.
I recall that this action plan was developed through last term, and where the medical campus was originally part of that action plan, and the location at that time was the Bayview and St. John's area. Seeing that was developed into retail, this term we then realized that we couldn't put a medical campus there, that the only opportunity was at Emery. Correct. But apart from telling Emery that this is our desire, the business concierge really it's limited to just saying, hey, this is our idea. We could have gone out into the medical field or tried to make them aware at trade shows around the world, North America, but I mean that's a resource we don't have. So apart from Emery considering it, the role of a business concierge at this time for a medical campus would be simply to let them know that this is a good idea thought of by our economic development.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the Business Concierge Program is focused on assisting investors to move through the development process, and it would apply to every sector. In fact, it applies to every potential non-residential application that comes in through the town is now managed through economic development. So it's making sure that we properly deal with developers and investors at the back end of the cycle in terms of they've made the decision to be here, and now we need to make sure that they're meeting their business goals in terms of getting tenants in place when they need to get tenants in place, or getting buildings up when they need to get buildings up. So it's about tailoring processes and providing priority processing and ensuring that the municipal processes are not the barrier to investment, which is something that we hear from the investment community often as being a barrier. So that's been the focus of this particular program, around investment attraction and opportunities for that. We've also been engaging with Emery around the opportunity for a medical campus and encouraging them to take up those opportunities, but ultimately it's an ownership decision that they need to make in terms of ultimately bringing those opportunities forward.
The overview you were showing was the construction of the bulk barn in your film?
No, actually the construction that you're seeing was the construction of the Tile Master building.
Tile Master, a local.
Correct, yeah.
They expanded it that way.
Yeah, there's they're building a $130,000 or $140,000 office and warehouse, or 130,000 square foot office / warehouse on Eric T. Smith. So it just happens that the timing around the video aligned well with their construction schedule. Sure. You likely also saw some close-up videos of the Pinnacle Tool Works building that was being built at the same time, as well as servicing on the Emery Business Park. There were a few other shots in between, but we tried to keep it as relevant to the investors that we're speaking as possible.
Tile Master's on Mary Street, just across the road here.
Correct.
Yeah, that's good. They're expanding. It means
So
good
they are
business is good.
expanding, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. Councillor Gartner.
Thank you very much for the video. I think it's a good video, and I hope it will help us. Following on Councillor Abel, do we have a new tenant? Is there a new tenant for the Tile Master building? It's quite a big building.
So Tile Master is expanding with no intention of vacating their
moving.
Mary Street building. So that building will continue to operate as a Tile Master building. This is an
Great.
additional building that they require in order to meet
So that will be
business
their
needs.
retail outlet now. That's great. Thank you.
Nope.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. There's no further comments or questions for Anthony. Thank you very much, Anthony, for the presentation and for the video and for your answers today.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All those in favor of receipt of the presentation? All those opposed? That carries. We have no delegations this evening. Move to the consent agenda. One item on the consent agenda. Any comments or minor questions to this item? Seeing none. Oh, Councillor Gardner.
I just have a comment, a compliment, and I don't know if Mr. Downey was involved with this, but the tile on the second floor at the Aurora Family Leisure Complex is original, and it's in amazing shape. So maybe it's the same company who put that tile down. I mean, I really can't believe that that tile is still looking so good.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. No other questions or comments. I'll have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Pardon me. Moved by the mayor, seconded by Councillor Kim. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Move to the regular agenda. Someone put item 1 on the floor, R1 on the floor. Moved by Councillor Humphreys. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Gardner. Those who want to speak to that motion? Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. I just want to say that it's a really good report and a really good policy, and I think it's an important policy. I think it's timely, and I'd like to thank Mr. Wong and whoever helped him with this. I just have one question. I'm not sure to who it goes. So the last page is it has a code of conduct. And I'm just wondering where are we going to be putting this when people walk into our various facilities? I mean, is it going to be very obvious that we have a code of conduct?
Ms. Worth?
Through you, Mr. Chair. It is our intention to place signage throughout the facilities. We haven't determined the locations yet, but we need them to be visible and right up front. So we'll be working on that over the next few months.
Thank you very much. I think if a patron sees this as soon as they walk in, then they'll know that we're serious about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Certainly I am in support of having a community code of conduct policy, and I suspect that we do have one now. And so, through you to Mr. Chair, to Mrs. Worth, can you confirm that we do have a current code of conduct, and how is this revised one different from the current one that we're using?
Ms. Worth?
Through you, Mr. We actually don't have a code of conduct that applies to the community as a whole. We have a code of conduct that applies to staff. It's an internal HR policy, but we have not had one that applies to the community.
Okay.
Councillor Kim?
Thank you. So what exactly is the difference then? I know we've received the odd email where from residents where they felt that they were not treated fairly. You know, for instance, in the pool, their child is not getting the attention that they deserve, or we had to kind of remove the participant because of the way that they're behaving, or they're impacting how the program's progressing. And I know that staff did have to act and have to communicate with the parent and so forth. What procedures do we follow there? Is it more of a staff code of conduct then?
Ms. Worth?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Up until this point, staff have had to resolve those kinds of issues through consultation with their manager and their peers. There hasn't been a formal process for them to follow, which is a benefit of having this kind of policy now. It provides some clarity and direction to staff when we are dealing with those sorts of situations, and they have a better idea of how to handle them.
Mr. CAO, do you have any comments on this as well?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to add to that, excuse me, the intent of this code of conduct as well is to provide a base point for staff to refer to. As Ms. Worth said, staff have had to deal with this in the past, and they've, in consultation with their supervisor, they've come up with a solution as the problems were presented. We still want to allow staff to use their discretion to be able to decide how best to act for the situation, but at least this gives something for staff to point back to as the base of the code of conduct, and defines activities and behaviors that are not appropriate. And so there still will be some discretion on the next steps in terms of what happens when we encounter this behavior, but we realized that we didn't have something for staff to actually anchor back to and point to for residents, for example, or users of our facilities, to say it's very clear this is why this behavior is not acceptable. And so that's the intent of the code of conduct, and the intent of having it approved by council and ultimately posted in our buildings.
Councillor Kim?
Thank you. And I know that especially when dealing with residents, and especially where children are involved, there's always a he said, she said, and parents always believe that their kids are always model of consistency. And so should, the first level, and the code talks about the first level, second level, and the third, and there's appeals process. So can you explain how the appeals process works? Because I can see how this can get sensitive if a resident is banned for a certain period of time and they're not allowed back to participate. I could easily see that either come back to council or being escalated. Who will be the mitigator or the appeals person when it gets that far?
Ms. Worth?
Through you, Mr. Chair. At that point, it would be a consultation with the manager, director, and perhaps the CAO if it was appropriate.
Okay.
Councillor Kim?
Great. And lastly, I know that the library has its own, I'm not sure if I forget what they call it, the code of conduct, but the library has, as a member of the board, we have our own way that staff conduct themselves with regards to customers. Will this be shared with the library? I know they're a separate entity, but will it be shared with them as well?
Ms. Worth?
Through you, Mr. Chair. We're certainly willing to share this with the library. Yes.
Okay. Great. That'd be all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Gardner for the second time.
Thank you. It just occurred to me that there aren't, on the Code of Conduct sheet itself, there are no consequences listed. And I know in our sign bylaws, like, for example, dogs off leash, et cetera, there are, I believe there are consequences listed. So I think it would be a good idea to list some of the possible consequences so that everybody will know the town is serious about this. So if you wouldn't mind taking that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Seeing no more comments or questions on this item, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? That carries. Move to item R2. Someone put that motion on the floor. Moved by Councillor Gardner, seconded by Councillor Kim. Comments to this motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. I thank Mr. Tree. I do have a problem with this. I don't know how it can be solved, but it says that, for example, to clear Yonge Street between Church and Catherine Avenue would take an average of 8 hours to complete. And I know that noise travels, sound travels. So that means the residents in that area are going to be subjected to noise from midnight to whenever they're finished. I really don't think that that's appropriate. I know it doesn't happen that often at the moment, but depending on how the weather progresses, we may have this more often. And I'm wondering if it, well, I don't know, if staff or Mr. CEO have any ideas, because I wouldn't like to be a resident living on Church Street and have overnight noise when the snow is being removed. Maybe it's a problem that can't be solved, but I think we're going to hear from the residents about it.
Is that a comment, Councillor Gardner? Would you like a response?
Well, I would like to know if staff thinks that's a valid problem, and if so, what might be done about it.
Mr. Downey?
Through Mr. Chair, staff feel it is an issue, which is the reason the report's before you. We actually have the ability to do that now, but don't, because we are concerned with residents who would be disturbed at night, which is the reason we brought the report forward. We want to make sure that we communicate this as much as we possibly can before we go off and do this operation. We wanted council endorsing us going out at night, feeling that there may be some concerns raised. As we say in the report, we will be reporting back to council once we complete this work in 2018 to determine whether or not we continue on with this practice or modify it to some degree. We have offered some options within the report that would speed up the process, and that's why we showed you a piece of equipment, basically a snow blower that would assist us in making this happen quicker. However, we don't have that piece of equipment right now, so we are still looking at front-end loaders and trucks to remove this, which is the reason it takes a longer period of time. It is a much more effective way of removing snow at night, as you can appreciate.
Yeah.
We aren't dealing with traffic, we aren't dealing with pedestrians. We can actually close off a portion of the road without disrupting any operations, store operations, or on Yonge Street. So there are a number of benefits with regards to it. However, if you are living in one of those apartments above the storefronts on Yonge Street, you will be disturbed. We believe you will be disturbed for a certain period of time, although it will be something moving along Yonge Street, but there will be a period of time that it will be disruptive. The other thing is, it doesn't happen very often, but when we do it, it is going to be a noisy operation. We can't get away from that.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. The area on Yonge Street between Church and Catherine is not a very long strip compared to the amount of roads that we have to clear, and the report says it would average 8 hours to complete. So to me, that's all night of a person's night's sleep, perhaps. And I'm not talking about the people on Yonge Street. I'm talking about the people who live in the area generally. Especially at night, the noise really travels. anyway, I don't know what the solution is, so I'll think on it over the next week, having heard what you said. And with respect to the piece of equipment you're suggesting, is it a quiet piece of equipment, or it's just a faster piece of equipment?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Through Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, it was either faster or what?
Quieter?
Quieter, okay. One of the things, it will be quieter in that it won't have a backup alarm. So one of our
I'm
issues,
sorry, won't have a
backup alarm. Beep, beep, beep.
Oh, yes.
And that'll go over well. Anyway, no, I'm not doing that again. But we don't have to back the trucks up. We don't have to back the loader up, and so we can continue on with the forward operation. So the backup alarms are one of the things that are concerning us right now. So the certainly there will be flashing lights and things like that, but it will be noisy, but not near as noisy. But the backup alarms are our main concern, and we need those because of the type of equipment use.
Councillor Gardner?
And you, through you, Mr. Chair, you think that one piece of equipment is going to provide us so much help? I mean, I don't know what equipment we use now, but we use a lot, I think.
Through you, Mr. Chair, certainly when we are starting to review our operations, right now we use a lot of equipment in order to do this operation. We need front-end loaders and plows to push the snow into the middle of the street. Then we need the front-end loaders to load that into the trucks and have that trucked away. And that is not a very efficient operation. What we would like to be able to do is take this blower. We can actually remove the snow exactly where it is, have the trucks run down the middle of the street, have the snow blower run through the bank, and it's a much more efficient operation. So. One piece of equipment can do the work of several other pieces of equipment. It's just a piece of equipment we don't have right now, and extremely difficult to get, as you can appreciate, in the middle of winter. So, so we are recommending that we carry on with the same type of operation we have right now, but do it at night as opposed to doing it during the day. And we're either going to be disrupting traffic and store operations and the public and cars and parking during the day, or we're going to be disrupting people sleeping in the evening. But one way or the other, we do disruption.
Councillor Gardner?
I'm not going to ask Mr. Downey to make that great sound again, but that is one of the most annoying sounds, and I cannot imagine being a resident listening to that for several hours. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Mayor Daw?
First of all, I'd just like to say that if Mr. Downey's career ever goes south, he can get a job as a standby backup beep. I was going to ask that, so I'm pleased to hear that. And I'm just wondering perhaps if we looked at this maybe as a pilot to see how that would work. Because it can be an annoying time, there's no question. Maybe we can find another time, but to try it and just see if there's a lot of complaints and we have an option to move would be my suggestion.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. Councillor Humphreys?
Mr. Chair, thank you so much. I actually believe that's exactly what this is. It's a little bit of a trial, and that staff is coming back at the end of the winter season. I may be reading it incorrectly, but through Mr. Chair, on page 4 of 7, I believe it just says the staff can cease the operation at any time and report back to council on the matter prior to resuming operation next season. So it's like this season, see how bad the complaints are. If they're really bad, then we won't go next year. Is that accurate? I'm not sure.
Mr. Downey, can you confirm?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's exactly right. We're trying this out. It hasn't been done yet. We're anticipating issues, and that's why we want to come to council before this happens, and get out a public notification process. So we're going to tell people, as many people as we possibly can. We anticipate there may be some concerns. We're kind of hoping there aren't, but at least we'll have an effective way of dealing with some of those concerns. And the idea is then we report back to council at the end of this winter maintenance season to determine whether or not we're going to do this on an ongoing basis for the 2018-19 practice.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And I was behind recently one of the equipment that was doing that on Yonge Street, and oh yeah, it was a long, low wait, middle of the day, lots of traffic, lots of businesses. So I was thinking that I'm like, oh, how many complaints are we getting about this today? But I think that's it's a good approach, And I just want to say something, if it's okay, Mr. Chair, that the sidewalk plowing this year, I mean, I'm sorry,
Let's not go
but
down that road.
I'm sorry, but they're great, and the plowing so far, I mean, there have been some complaints, but the majority overall has been really great, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Seeing no more comments to this motion, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? That carries. Move then to item R3.
Fork, maybe we could bring that forward?
You're going to move that we move item 4 forward?
Please.
Is there a seconder? Seconded by Mayor Daw. This is to waive procedural bylaw to amend the agenda. It's 2/3. All those in favor of moving R4 forward? Opposed? That carries. So we'll move to item R4. Will someone put that on the floor? Moved by Mayor Daw, seconded by Councillor Kim. Comments to R4? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Move back to R3. Someone put R3 on the floor, please. Moved by Mayor Daw, seconded by Councillor Humphreys. Comments to R3? Seeing no comments from committee, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? That carries. Move to R5. Someone put that on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Kim, seconded by seconder for this. Seconded by Mayor Daw. Comments to R5. Mayor Daw.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And it was on the Parks and Rec, which is page 3 of 3, or page 3 of 44 with respect to item R5. And that's in staff. Investigate the feasibility and cost for a gymnasium at the Stronach Aurora Recreational Complex within the 2018 budget. I'm not sure that that's possible. But I'm curious as to how much effort would have to go into that. It's probably Mr. Downey, you're doing facilities now, correct? Is that correct? It's because we're also looking, staff is looking at a multi-use with the direction of Councillor Kim's motion. So if we're kind of looking at it as a ballpark, here's what it would cost to do, I'm okay with that. But otherwise, I think we should be focusing on the multi-use facility. So I would just appreciate getting a bit of an input from Mr. Downey on that.
Mr. Downey.
Through you, Mr. Chair, this was brought up at the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting in November, as it states. I was made aware of this coming forward and provided the committee with the documentation that we had provided to Council of the Day in 2004 when we were looking at the design of the Stronach Aurora Recreation Complex. At that point, the design for the SARC had identified the potential of putting a gymnasium on the SARC. And in fact, there was a report provided to council along with a cost estimate for the construction of putting the foundation in only, and then putting the foundation and the structure in itself. It was felt at the time that we would not be moving forward with either the foundation or, of course, the gym itself, and that no money be allocated for that. So some cost estimates have been provided, some preliminary layouts have been made available. I've had some discussions with Lisa, the interim director, to talk about potential uses for the facility. There was quite a discussion at the Parks and Recreation and Cultural Advisory Committee with regards to how quickly we could start moving on this. It was the committee's feeling that they would like to see this happen as soon as possible, and it would not have an impact on whether or not we needed gymnasium space at the multi-purpose facility, in that it was the committee's feeling that a gymnasium at the SARC would assist in the programming that is presently being provided at the SARC. and that additional gymnasium space was still going to be needed or has been contemplated at the new multipurpose recreation facility. So a bit of a long answer, but I don't believe there's a lot of work to determine the feasibility. But once the decision is made by council, then there's a number of steps that need to be taken, which is the engagement of an architect, setting up a budget, and those types of things. So right now, they've just asked us to investigate the feasibility, and so that's what we were working on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Downey. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. I was at that meeting just as an observer and was allowed to participate a little bit. My concern is that there's already a parking issue, so I don't know how much more we could accommodate. And I also, the thought was mentioned that the change rooms that are present, it would be a good fit because the change rooms that are there, so we wouldn't have to add change rooms. But I don't know how many people use the SARC, but those change rooms are very busy and very crowded. So again, I don't know if they could accommodate more people. I'm not in favor of the idea. I would like to know, through you to Mr. Downey. Mr. Downey, when you said it would complement, you didn't use these words, sorry, complement what's going on at the SARC already, are you talking about dry land training for the various sports teams?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct. There's always a need, especially during hockey tournaments, for warm-up space or stretching space for the teams themselves, and quite often they're doing that in the lobby, which we're trying to discourage. There is dryland training required within our pool area, and that's often done on the deck and not the best location for those things. In talking to Ms. Worth with regards to potential uses for the facility, I did talk to her about the fact that perhaps there's a concern with regards to overloading the change rooms, because we were not contemplating building additional change rooms. So she's going to be looking at the uses of those change rooms. Are they at capacity? Can they handle additional uses? And if they can, when and how often? And that would then deal with the programming that might be able to go in that particular area. And all that would go into the feasibility study of whether or not this is a good idea or not a good idea to put a gymnasium on the SARC. We haven't done any of that work.
Follow-up, thank you. And would you please add parking to that mix? And also, the dryland training, well, first of all, would we be charging for the use of the gym for the warm-ups for the various teams? And the dryland training, would that be for not-for-profit groups, for profit groups? How would that work, and how would the charge-out be for that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, with regards to permitting and potential revenue sources, we haven't looked into that at this point, so it'd be premature for me to comment on that. I know that the space, particularly during tournaments, would more than likely be a complementary use with regards to the tournament, so there wouldn't be a fee attached to it. But as you know, the seniors are continuing to look for additional space for pickleball, or now they want to get into a badminton program, so it could provide some of those opportunities as well. Certainly would supplement our summer camp program that goes on at the facility, and that would be a great use for the facility. So as I say, we haven't got into the full programming, but that would be all identified within the feasibility study.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, and I certainly I wouldn't be in favor of it if it wasn't going to maybe at least half pay for itself, if not more. Anyway, I'm thinking this will come up next week because Councillor Peary and Councillor Maracus are on that committee. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Abel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This gym, I mean, normally we would permit a gym, and through you, Mr. Chair, you're suggesting that teams warm up and stretch, and I recall that a lot of teams, particularly swimming and hockey, that use the facility, would we just open the gym and let them stretch, or would they be having to book and permit the gym to do the stretching? If you could just sort of explain that.
I think Mr. Downey did, but Mr. Downey, perhaps
through you,
expand on it.
it would act very much like the gymnasium that we presently have at the leisure complex. So we have program times identified within that gymnasium. So even though there might not be a fee attached to it, that doesn't mean that wouldn't be time allocated. So we have free programming going on at the gymnasium, at the leisure complex itself. But we don't simply open the doors and allow anyone to come in any time and do what they want to do in there. We have program times available, but there may not be a fee attached to it. And as I say, that's something that we haven't been able to look at much further, but it would be something that would be identified within the feasibility study.
Okay. Because normally when they would warm up, it would only be for 10, 20 minutes before they go in to change and get ready for their competition or game. So it would be sort of an intermittent sort of thing in my mind. If you recall, last term when we were expanding the leisure complex and putting a gym in, it was suggested at that time we put in 3 gyms to meet the demand for tournaments and bringing in that sort of effect. Of course, the council last term decided 1 would be enough. And I know that Sport Aurora has identified, especially in the basketball and volleyball, that if they had 3 gymnasiums where they could put multiple courts on, they could host tournaments and bring in, of course, the economic value of tourism. And seeing as how we've got a hotel there, is there going to be any sort of consultation with Sport Aurora and those bodies to add input that might suggest if you're putting in 1, why not put in 3? Because the economic value of tournaments, etc., would be like part of the strategy that we've got going. So would you be conferring with them, and would we also consider an option of adding in multiple gymnasiums to accommodate such an idea?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Sport Aurora has been consulted. They're actually part of the committee, and they had an opportunity to have their say. We are continuing to look at a multiple gym facility, and that would be at the multi-purpose facility that we are contemplating. This is not the venue for that. This could only accommodate a single gym. We have no space available to put additional gyms on. So if we were looking at trying to accommodate those needs, it wouldn't be at the SARC, it would be at the multipurpose facility. They've asked us to look at both scenarios. They want multiple gyms at the multipurpose facility, and they would like to see a gym attached to the SARC.
Thank you, Mr. Downey.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. Seeing no more comments to this item, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? That carries. Move to item R6.
I think I just messed up. I wanted to discuss a couple of other items that were part of 5. So were you calling the vote on all of the items?
Yes.
Okay, I'll discuss it under new business then.
Okay. So R6. I forget where we are. Did I already take a mover and a seconder for R6? I don't think I did. R6, a mover, please. Motion. Councillor Humphrey, seconded by Councillor Kim. Comments to this item? Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had asked members here if we could defer this item, and the reason is I was not going to be at council, and I was not scheduled to be here, but I am for reasons out of my control. However, it's an opportunity for me to discuss a couple of the items that I would like to see come forward. There's a great deal of them that have not been completed, and I sort of wanted to do this at the next cycle so that we could all be here and I could be a little more prepared.
Would you like to defer this item, Councillor Abel?
I would, if I could defer, Mr. Chair, I would put a motion to defer until the next cycle.
Is there a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Humphreys. Comments or questions to the motion to defer? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of deferral? All those opposed? That carries. It'll be deferred till the next cycle. Thank you, Councillor Abel. That completes our agenda items for this evening. We'll move to new business. I'll begin with Councillor Kim. Mayor Daw.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have new business as such, but I did overlook last Tuesday thanking staff for the work they did in putting together the Mayor and Council levy. So I wish to thank staff for the work they did and to apologize for my oversight last week. It was a great event, came together in a very short period of time and well attended. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Abel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. There is a concern I have, and I asked the mayor and the CAO if they could put a closed session meeting on the topic of the fencing at 47 Wells. And there was no return to my email to Mayor Daw. It was first thing this morning. So seeing as there's no will for the mayor to see this closed session, I'll ask two things, or mention one. This is something that is a big concern in our community, and that is that there's a fence been erected by one neighbor that does not allow access to the neighbor to maintain its property, and in this case, it's a health and safety issue. There's been lots of controversy social. We've had a notice of motion put forward that will ask staff to consider and report back to enact a bylaw so that access is not denied to a homeowner by a neighbor when they construct a fence. These are all sort of considerations and neighborly sort of things that are in a community. It is now escalated to a point now where police and people aren't cooperating, and I think, I don't know if the opinion is shared, but I believe that the town has a significant role in seeing that the safety and health concerns of residents are dealt with. So I would like to know, or I would like to put a motion forward that we go into closed session and talk about this, and then we could report out on certain items, because I think some of it is should be dealt with because it involves people's names and situations that could not be talked about, and then we could get advice there and bring it back out. So
one comment I do have, Councillor Abel, is I think there is a proper way to ask for a closed session meeting before a committee meeting, and so I'm not privy to your conversations with the mayor, but obviously I think, you know, I take your comment that you attempted to have the closed session meeting brought forward, but I know there is a process, so I'm not sure whether or not you followed that process. So that's with your comment to the CAO and the mayor earlier. Is a motion to resolve in a closed session, if it's seconded, is in order?
Ask the clerk if we can do that.
I'm being advised by the clerk that it's not in order to make a motion at committee to resolve into closed session at Councillor Abel, and that the process is for that should be followed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could I ask the clerk to explain for the general knowledge of myself and the public, what is that process?
Mr. Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Chair, just so I'm aware, the question is the process for taking an item into closed session?
Yes, if a councillor has a concern and believes it should be in closed session, how does he go about bringing it to council's attention and effectively going into that closed session?
Most importantly about closed session is that the public has the chance to view the specific sections of the Municipal Act that Council is going into closed session. And so we don't have any notice for a closed session meeting this evening. It wouldn't be fair to the public. And it's not, as the Chair said, it's not really in order in the meeting either. So I would encourage you, if you have a matter that you think should be in closed session, to raise it as soon as possible. Ideally, the Friday before the meeting with either the CAO or myself, and we can certainly look at the exemptions for going into close and decide whether we think there is a case for going into close with that item.
Councillor Abel?
Thank you, and I appreciate the explanation, and I would have thought that perhaps the mayor or the CAO could have told me that as well, that my request was not appropriate, and the explanation could have been dealt with first thing this morning. So then that leaves me at this stage here, on behalf of a situation where, in my opinion, a person has to access the consumer's gas line within 2 weeks or have their gas turned off, and in the winter that's not appropriate, and she's not able to do that without taking the fence down. And it's a gas line that goes the whole length of the side of her house. And I think we're all familiar that the gas line is 8 inches from the fence that's erected. I attended the site. I'm trying to mediate this situation. I attended the site with the contractor, and he says it's impossible for him to service the gas line with the fence in place. There's just no room. A cat couldn't go through there. A squirrel could, but a man that has power equipment cannot. So the situation is the neighbor can't get permission to go on the lot to put the fence down. And I believe that the neighbors indicated that they'll phone the police. And the police has indicated that they'll arrest anyone that trespasses. So we have a situation where someone put up a fence and is responsible for that fence, and they have not considered the needs of their neighbor, and that's accessing maintenance on their home. So it's a real messy situation. And I think for us to, I think the town has to come forward to resolve the situation. So that's what I wanted to talk about in a closed session, is how are we going to do this? It's a very complex matter, in my opinion, because it involves legislation and the Municipal Act, and the bottom line is it's about being good neighbors in a community and allowing someone to have heat in their home during the winter. And it's that simple. And they should not, if they didn't put a barrier there, they shouldn't be restricted to go and have that looked after with the fear of being arrested for something that they weren't responsible for doing. So I don't know where to proceed on this, but I'd sort of like to hear some comments from my colleagues. And
Councillor, this is new business. You're free to bring up anything you like on pertaining to matters of the town, but you know, general discussions on this, this is your opportunity for new business, and so you still have remaining time.
Well, I'd like to have that fence removed for the person to have their so that they can have their gas line fixed, so that they can have heat in their home. That's my new business. And they shouldn't be arrested if they go and do so. And I think it's important, and I think it's our responsibility to ensure that if someone puts a fence up, we have the ability to say, you can put a fence up, but you cannot put a barrier and risk the health and safety of your neighbor. And under these circumstances, we have to go in because they're so close to each other. The property line's 8 inches. So I think we should be going in and removing that fence and letting that lady, let that person get their heat back on in their house. And I do not want them to fight it on themselves and be arrested. So how are we going to do that? Through you, Mr. Chair, how would we do that?
Councillor Abel, you have 10 minutes to articulate your new business. If you'd like to make a motion, if it's seconded, we'll discuss it. If not, I'll move to Councillor Gardner.
Well, let me think now. I'll put a motion. How much time do I have?
You have a minute and a half, and I will remind you that new business is for, not for substantive motions. That's best taken care of with a notice of motion.
I do have a notice of motion, and it was going to be that offenses like this will not be allowed. So I have looked after that, and it should be expedited and not like some of the other bylaws that we have done that can be coming back very quickly. So my notice of motion would be that we have a bylaw provide access for that resident to have there.
Point of order from the mayor.
Substantive business is not allowed in new business.
I already made Councillor Abel aware of that.
It's substantive.
The chair.
You're not going to allow it.
Councillor Abel, I think new business is for clarifications from staff and for minor motions. Substantive motions must be made through notice of motion to give adequate, knowledge of the public so that it can be discussed and proper processes being followed. So,
Mr. Chair, I was only asking that bylaw look after one matter. I don't think it's substantive.
Well, my rulings with the mayor on this point of order. I ask you to wrap up as well because I'm sure you're getting close to your time. 20 seconds.
I have no further comment.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. Councillor Gardner, new business.
Thank you. Following on what Councillor Abel has said, I sent everybody an email this morning to Mayor and Council and Mr. CAO. To me, this issue was a potential health and safety issue to a resident, and I think we have a responsibility as a town to do something about it. And I've read all the emails from Ms. Van Leeuwen. I know it's a very difficult situation, but I think we have a responsibility here. So I'm going to leave. I'm not going to say what the rest of my email says, but I would appreciate it if everybody reads it. It's from this morning, and maybe we can do something before next week or something next week at the meeting. Also, I did miss pulling the minutes from the Environmental Advisory Committee. I would appreciate if everybody, or perhaps I'll just read it. To me, this report doesn't clearly identify responsibility and accountability. And I think to have an action plan, I'm talking about the Corporate Environmental Action Plan, to have an action plan without identifying the department responsible for that, to me, it's really not an action plan. And the other thing is with respect to, I'm just going to read the very first one. Reduce corporate water consumption. The indicators are annual 8% reduction. And then it says timeline target. And it says annual water consumption to be added to the progress report. Through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Muno, and I did attend the meeting, I do believe that there was a request to add a department for each of these items. That would certainly help. And also with respect to the implementation, I mean, it's all problematic to me. I don't know where 8% came from, and it's probably a realistic figure that's been researched, but I'd like to know how we're going to achieve that.
Mr. Amuno?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Chair, I can certainly take this back and have a discussion with our staff liaison and provide the additional information for council, and if appropriate, report back to the Environmental Advisory Committee with the additional information. So I can certainly take a look at it with staff.
Thank you, and I am at a disadvantage in discussing this because both of the members, again, aren't here tonight. So maybe it'll come up next week. With respect, I also have questions with respect to the Trails and Trails Master Plan report minutes, but I think I'll wait till next week because Councillor Marakis is away for that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Are you finished with new business?
Actually, there is one thing, and I wondered how it was going to be accomplished. We're talking about on private property, trying to implement some, no, actually, I'm going to leave it till next week.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Now, I have some, Councillor Humphreys, Kim, and Daw for new business. Councillor Humphreys, do you have new business?
No, I was going to talk a little bit about what Councillor Abel touched on with the neighbor, and I'm looking forward to reading Councillor Gardner's email.
Thank you.
Go from there.
Councillor Kim, new business?
Yes, through you to Ms. Van Leeuwen. Council requested a report back regarding options regarding this property. Can you give us a rough timeline as to when you anticipate your report coming back to us?
Ms. Van Leeuwen.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would suggest in April, May, for a timeline. We're going to have to do some research and some exploring, and then there's the lead time to prepare the report and go through the proper vetting process.
Okay. Councillor Kim.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Daw, new business?
I just want to quickly respond. There's been so many emails that's gone back and forth on this particular issue that I've missed one. I apologize. But in my opinion, and I would have said that this morning, and I'll go back and check my emails, that this would not qualify as a closed session item. I said it last week and I'll say it again tonight. It's essentially a neighbor dispute. The party who sent most of the emails has been advised multiple times that she has the right of entry. She has to make arrangements with the neighbor. She has full right to take the fence down as long as she replaces it. And I'll do, if I have no doubt that if there was a very serious issue with the gas, that Enbridge would be in there correcting what they need to do and not worried about any fence. So the complainant still has the option to get in touch with her neighbor, perhaps through a mediator if its direct contact doesn't work, and sort this out.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. Seeing no more new business, we have no closed session this evening. Motion to adjourn? Moved by Councillor Gardner, seconded by Councillor Kim. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thank you very much.